Is that a problem?
Let's start you now.
Yeah, okay. Because there was a long silence.
Assalamu alaikum, everyone. Welcome to our channel. The date is Sunday, the 26th of April, 2026. This is our 236 Tawheed Halaqah. We are on Surah
Tafseer halaqah.
Tafsir Halaqah. Sorry, I was getting someone calling me at the same time, unfortunately. Okay, let me start again. 1 second. Yeah, Sheikh, I'm just going to pause 1 second.
Okay.
Sorry about that, Doc. Someone's trying to contact me. So, okay. The date is Sunday, the 26th of April, 2026. This is our 236th Tafsir Halaqah. We are on Surah Al-Qasas, verse 29. The format will be Tafsir, followed by brief question and answer, and then after that we'll have a Palestine update. We may choose to do a full Q&A next week, monthly. If there isn't the appetite, we may just continue with Tafsir next week, depending on the kind of questions we have and what's left over. So anyway, as I say, we're on Surah 28, that's Surah Al-Qasas, verse 29, which we'll recite, and then we will do the translation. The professor will give us an explanation. Okay, bear with me a second. Just give me a couple of seconds.
Which ayah we have stopped at?
The last ayah, bear with me. Let me bring it up. Sorry, just Cloudflare. So the ayah before 28 was قال ذلك.
The number of the ayah we didn't get.
28. Last ayah was 28, which is قال ذلك بيني وبينك أيما الأجلين قضيت فلا أدوان علي والله على ما نقول وكيل. And that was answered Moses, thus shall it be between me and thee, whichever of the two terms I fulfill, let there be no ill will against me, and God be witness to all that we say. That's in relation to Musa alayhi salam and his contract with his father-in-law.
No. What's the next, the other translation? Just to remind ourselves with that.
Sure. The other translation by Safi Kaskas is when Moses completed a term and was traveling with his family, he noticed.
No.
Sorry, before.
No, we did not start yet. Yeah.
Moses said, that is a deal between us. Whichever of the two terms I complete, there should be no bad feeling towards me. May God be witness over what we say.
Okay, so we mentioned last time that the Prophet asked Jibreel, and Jibreel asked an angel, according to our narrative anyway, which term he completed, is the 8 years or the 10 years? And the answer was only Allah knew that, and he said he completed the most generous and the most perfect term, which is 10 years. The takeaway from that is that he stayed, because after that, when he completed, the next ayah says when he completed the term, he took his family and started back to Egypt. Okay, so what is the Old Testament that said 40 years? I commented also on that, is nonsense. The Quran refused that clearly, but this is most like due to the Israelite obsession of 40 years in the wilderness, 40 this, 40 that, 40 this, 40 that. It's to have somehow an obsession with 40. So we have to be cautious about when we read the Old Testament. At least the historic part of it, which should be quite neutral, but still some fabrication and embellishment and imagination could be interfering there. So it is 10 years, not 40. And according to the Old Testament, in these 10 years toward the end, he received the news that Pharaoh died. Yeah, that's according to the Old Testament. And also time synchronization of the Old Testament dates with the Babylonic days and other solar and lunar eclipses, etc., indicate strongly that it is really He hit the way back when that Pharaoh from whom he ran away died. So that's also, this addition is important because many of the Muslim scholars think because the story continues with the same name, Pharaoh, they confuse this Pharaoh to be, they did not notice that it's a title rather than a specific person. Even the Pharaoh and the wife of the Pharaoh who picked him up is a different one, much earlier than that, something like 40 years before that. So keep that in mind, otherwise you will you'll not get a story correct. Okay, so next ayah. Now we continue with the tafsir.
ولما قضى موسى الأجل وصار بأهله آنس من جانب الطور نارا قال لأهلهم كثوا إني آنست نارا لعلي آتيكم منها بخبر أو جذوة من النار لعلكم تستلون. And when Moses had fulfilled his term and was wandering with his family in the desert, he perceived a fire on the slope of Mount Sinai. And so he said to his family, "Wait here, behold, I perceive a fire far away. Perhaps I may bring you from there some tiding, or at least a burning brand from the fire, so that you might warm yourselves." Next translation. When Moses completed the term and was traveling with his family, he noticed a fire from the direction of the mountain. He said to his family, "Stay here. I have seen a fire. Perhaps I will bring you from there some information or burning wood from the fire that you may warm yourselves."
So this from this very short sentence, we glean the following. Obviously, the Quran is not interested to tell you he's not going just wandering around in loss. That can't be the case. So he's going in a certain direction. Where he's going back to Egypt, obviously. From the whole context, that's his home country. Now he may think things, but doesn't mention why he thinks this way, that he may be able to go back with not necessarily impunity, but the length of time may have cooled things down and he can argue his case, whatever came in his mind. So he's going back to Egypt. The Quran does not mention that. And secondly, but the Old Testament mentioned that he heard that the Pharaoh died. So he thought the new Pharaoh, a new system, may be more lenient and he can argue his case. They still have no revelation, nothing is. And on the way back, obviously, it seems to be from that he saw that fire near this big mountain, a Tur. Tur is a name for any big mountain is called Tur, not the specific one, but this one is a very specific one. And he said, "Stay here. I will go to that fire." So it's obviously in a wilderness, so it's well under control. There's no danger for the family to leave them and go walk maybe a few miles. This will be not far away. It will be within the horizon, so maybe a few miles. And I will get you some news about what? Obviously, news how to find the way. So he seemed to have lost his way. So from Madian to Egypt, there are various ways through the mountains and valleys. He knows the general direction, but he can get more instruction. Let's say, okay, in this valley, continue like so many hours, so many steps, and then turn right, and then you will be along the coastal way, which is nobody can get lost because the sea is they were left and the mountains at your right. Never get lost there. But now he is in the block of mountains. There may be various ways and some shortcuts. So he's asking, that's the khabar. And also getting something, if he doesn't get any news, at least he guesses the general way. I can get a bit of fire, a torch, so we can warm ourselves. At these times, initiating fire is quite difficult with striking stones and so on. And maybe in that area there are some dead trees which you can collect wood and things like that. So that's what he told his family, and he proceeded towards the fire. Okay. So that all is relying on that you could with your imagination imagine what's going on. The only significant thing is that when he completed the term, the agreement with his father-in-law, and that's, we said, 8 or 10 years. According to the narrative, it is 10 years, but doesn't matter. It's definitely not 40 as the Old Testament claims. So this one correction. Motivation and so on is not mentioned there, which is not relevant. He's going back to Egypt, definitely. So he proceed there. Now, next ayah, inshallah. Yeah.
فلما آتاها نودي من شاطئ الوادي الأيمن في البقعة البقعة المباركة من الشجرة أي يا موسى إني أنا الله رب العالمين. And when he came close to it, a call was sounded from the right side of the bank of the valley, out of the tree burning on blessed ground. O Moses, verily I am God, the sustainer of all the worlds. Next translation. But when he came to the fire, a voice called from the right side of the valley, from the tree on the blessed spot, Moses, I am God, Lord of the worlds.
So this summarizing in other places more details out conversation before that. Here is summarizing because the target is something else, not these details. But let's verify some points there. First of all, it is on the right bank, شاطئ الوادي الأيمن من الشجرة. So the call came from the tree. In the other place, we know it was a burning tree, and he was amazed at standing. How come the tree is green and standing and it's still burning? It looks like some contradiction there, something odd and uninteresting, and nobody is there. And then the sound comes from the tree, but it's a tree as being from the right, from the من شاطئ الوادي الأيمن من الشجرة. So the call will come from the tree, but من شاطئ الوادي الأيمن, the right side of the valley. Now this could have two interpretations. Most likely, if we see also in another ayahs clarifying that both are correct at the same time. So he's in the right bank of the valley, and also the valley is on the right side of the mountain. Now, how to understand these directions, right, left, and so on? How to understand them? What is the Arabic convention about direction? Concerning generally the right side, the fundamental direction regarded by the Arabs and by all Semites and so on, the fundamental direction is east, where the sun rises and brings life and light to the world. Okay, so that's if you face east. What's your right hand side? Imagine you have the usual map. Now, your basic geography. You are facing east. Usually, east is to the right, west to the left, north to the top, south to the bottom. That's the standard convention nowadays. Now let's assume are facing east according to the standard convention, but the relation between them are fixed by themselves. The convention is that making east going to the right. You could have made it going to the top, but that's another convention. But the convention now is east is you're facing east. Now you're facing east. What will be to your right? South. Yeah, south. That's general when we say Yemen and Sham. Because for any place in Arabia, Yemen, Ayman, that's come from Yamin, right, is the place of the right-hand side. When you face the sun, that's looking towards Najd. To your right-hand side will be Yemen, and to your left-hand side will be Sham, left. Sham is coming from Sham, from left. That's generally. But for valleys, we have an exception. For valleys, we have exception. So for the mountain, which is not mentioned this, because the mentioning is directed for the valley, من شاطئ الوادي الأيمن. Now, شاطئ الوادي الأيمن could be either the right bank of the valley or the right bank of the mountain. The other story clarify, it is both of the right sides. So to try to stretch your imagination a little bit, simple geography. For valleys, we have different way of describing what's the right bank and left bank. For valleys, you look to the top of the mountain where the water comes when it rains from the top of the valley. I mean, from the origin of the valley, and that's where water and life comes. That's your initial point. Not east like for any general place. For valleys, especially and rivers, it is at the top of the valley, whatever it is, where the water comes from. When it rains there, the water will come, and you have the flood coming, or the river continuously coming. Then, because this is the source of life, water is essential for life, the source of life, that will be the original direction. And then the right-hand side be accordingly. Let's take the example of the Nile. The Nile originates from here, from Africa, both from Victoria and Abyssinian, yeah, from the south, relative to Egypt. So if you stand somewhere in Egypt or in North Sudan, we look towards where the Nile originates, where the water seems to be coming from, it comes from the south. So what's your right-hand side in the case of Egypt for the Nile? Imagine we are looking at the south. So what will be your right-hand side? Imagine the map.
West.
Anyone who has a bit of geography?
West.
Will be west. So the right-hand side of the Nile is west. It is exactly the opposite in the case of Euphrates and Tigris. When they come from north, go to north. So the right-hand side of Euphrates and Tigris and they're joining will be east. Yeah. So this is for rivers and valleys. So we have now, we know there that it's the right-hand side of the valley, and from the other ayah, I swear, it is on the right side of the mountain, the valley which is in the right side of Janib al-Tur al-Ayman. In another place it says from the right side of the Tur. So the mountain, the right side of the mountain must be then, because you're talking about the mountain, just a general location, must be south. And the valley, the right side of the valley must be also in that case, because the valleys are originating from the high areas of Hijaz going towards the Red Sea. These are the valleys. Because the mountain there is actually the mountain which is North Arabia called Mount Harb or Mount Horeb, still there. I have a research about that. I think I publicized some times ago. So both of them are towards south. So the valley itself to the south of the mountain, if we locate the mountain, that it is to the south of the mountain. And in the valley, it is the southern side of the mountain, of the valley. So this is the mountain here. Imagine the mountain here. South of it, there's a valley running from east to west. That's where valleys are running. If we agree that this mountain is Mount Harb, Horeb, Harb, that's exactly Harb. And this is the best location of God, not the one in Sinai. This is a fake place. It's not the correct place. We can exclude that. That's well established now. So the valleys are then obviously the water is coming from the high mountains to the east and going down lower to the Red Sea. So that will be the mountain here, the valley, and the tree, the bearing tree would have been on the other side, opposite to the mountain. But this is, if you want to locate the valley and the mountain, the moment you locate Harb, you can find the place roughly. Where it is, obviously it can go back and forth considerable distance, but you can imagine where it is, which side it's roughly. So that's the place. He comes there. And then he's surprised in other places, and also in the Old Testament, he sees a tree which is burning, but the tree is still standing, and it's green. Nothing is burning. And he watches in a state of shock. What's going on there? And he's hesitating, and there's nobody there. Something odd, unnatural is there, or supernatural, nobody knows. And then he hears the voice calling him from the burning tree itself, from the tree, from the tree. The voice is coming from, appears to be coming from the tree. And the voice summarizes a discussion. In other places, discussion goes, I am the Lord of the universe. In other places, it goes a lengthy discussion, etc., about various issues. In the Old Testament, a very lengthy discussion, introducing a new divine name and things like that. We discuss in the book of Tawheed. I think we passed all that. But here is just summarizing. So that's what has happened in Allah Rabbul Alameen. Now we continue to see what further discussion was ongoing there, or further instructions. Next ayah.
وأن ألقي عصاك فلما رآها تهتز كأنها جان ولا مدبرا ولم يعقب يا موسى أقبل ولا تخف إنك من الآمنين. And then he said, throw down thy staff. But as soon as Moses saw it move rapidly as if it were a snake, he drew back in terror and did not dare to return. And God spoke to him, O Moses, draw near and have no fear, for behold, thou art of those who are secure in this world and the next. Next ayah. Throw down your staff, but when he saw it moving as if it were a snake, next translation. Throw down your staff, but when he saw it moving as if it were a snake, he fled in fear and would not return. Moses, he was called again. Come back and do not be afraid. You are one of those who are safe.
So the whole conversation before that, who are you? What's your name? What should I tell the people? All of that is skipped here. It is mentioned in detail elsewhere. And then the first miracle is shown to him. Obviously, there's conversation before. Anyone can claim that from a tree, or could be a satanic entity, could be whatever it is. So he is showing now the first miracle, will show them this is beyond any created being capability. A stick out of wood, which is now dead, obviously, but originally it originated from a living things, which of a tree type. Obviously, Musa is not sophisticated in biology to know the difference between tree type and animal type, but it's clearly that the animal bodies are not like wood. And when they die, they don't become wood. So it's significantly different. So that dead stick, and before that was a conversation, what do you have in your hand? And so a very funny conversation. And Musa indulged in explaining the function of his stick as if Allah does not know. So it's very interesting to follow that. In the other surahs, the whole picture, someone may put all together and go through the conversation. It'll be a nice one, will be enjoyable as a scene. But anyway, here the Quran is focusing on something else. So after all these long conversation, that's all skipped in this sort of Qasas, and then he ordered, throw your stick, see what happens. So he threw the stick, complying with the command from the Lord of the universe. Okay, so comply, throw that stick. And also he told him that I was known to your grandparents and grandfathers and Ibrahim and so on, and the name and the strong God Elah Shaddai, but now give this name to me, and all of these things. So he threw the stick, and it moves like a snake. And the way to snake for here is it use Jan or Jinn, the hidden thing, because snakes usually are hidden in the day and they move at night. So usually, most of the time, you are not clear how snakes looks like in detail. So they are like Jinn. That's one type of Jinn. Refuting people thinking that Jinn is always something like these demonic entities. No. Jinn applies also to snakes, and those applies to scorpions and so on who spread at night mostly. So it moved something like a snake or something like that. In another place, it says clearly Tha'ban, snake, without any doubt, or a big snake. And obviously, for some reason, we don't know about the youthful of Musa. He has some kind of a snake phobia. Because usually if you see a snake, you will not just run away headless, normally. I mentioned once the story of one who was working us in the physics department. He told me once a story. He was in China and was invited by some, he's not very practicing, but he's a Shia Muslim, Hussein Samawi, from Samawa, from the wilderness of Iraq to the west of Basra and so on. And the Chinese invited him. He was working in the physics department as a demonstrator, actually as lecturer, and was there for some work for the physics department, and was invited with some Chinese scientists to have lunch. And he said, I'm offering you to do a special delicatesse. And delicatesse was that he took him to a restaurant where you can choose your own snake, which will be grilled for you. So he took him, said, take a look there, choose yours. And they opened that, and he saw it full of snakes. I said, I did not recognize myself except being like hundreds of meters far away on the street. And the man running behind me said, don't be afraid, these are well under control and so on. And he mentioned to me then, because as a small child, he was attacked by a snake. So he had a snake phobia. Maybe Musa have the same experience. Anyway, that's just a side story. He ran away almost headless. And then Allah called him, Musa, stop running away, come back. You are safe. And another source say, because you will be a messenger, messengers are safe in my presence. You don't need to fear. And thus, obviously, this way, his snake phobia was cured. Now, instead of having a snake phobia, he holds the snake in his hand without any fear. Okay. So don't run away. Come, you are safe. You are from those who are safe in this world and hereafter. And another surah say, in my presence, the messengers have nothing to fear. They have my protection and they have my infallibility bestowed upon them. So immediately he was cured from this. That's another miracle, but says like an internal hidden miracle for him, for his own self-conviction. Most likely, that's just speculative from my side, but indicated by it. So if he had a phobia, that's the reason he ran away, because Moses was a strong man, and he was able to kill someone just by giving him a fist or an elbow strike. So such a person, don't expect that he may step back from a snake, definitely, naturally. But running away headless? And in other source here, ولا موسى مدبر ولم يعقب. He ran away like headless without even turning back. That's a sign of someone who like having a phobia, like Hussein Samawi. But anyway, that's just a little bit just spicing things with experience which we have in our normal life. So موسى أقبل ولا تخف إنك من الآمنين. Next ayah.
أسلك يدك في جيبك تخرج بيضاء من غير سوء وادمم إليك جناحك من الرحب فذلك برهانان من ربك إلى فرعون وملئه إنهم كانوا قوما فاسقين. And now put thy hand into thy bosom, it will come forth shining white, without blemish, and henceforth hold thine arm close to thyself, free of all fear. These then shall be the two signs of thy bearing a message (in brackets) from thy sustainer unto Pharaoh and his great ones. For behold, they are people depraved. Next translation.
Or rebellious, yeah.
Now put your hand through the opening of your collar, it will come out shining white, unblemished. And cross your arms tightly to calm your fears. These are two proofs from your Lord to Pharaoh and his chiefs. They have truly been a rebellious people.
Okay, so he is giving, beside the snake, he's giving also another sign, two signs now for Pharaoh. That's he put his hand in his in the opening of the bosom, or it's called jaib. Jaib, some restaurants as pocket, because in time past they have their pockets there, especially women. They have their pockets near their bosoms, and they put things and money and so on in that place, because they have something similar to what they call it, the bus holder and things like that, and they can stick things like that there. So that was the old pocket, not the side pocket we have nowadays. But that's the original meaning of jaib. It's also in Surah that the woman should strike their veil upon their jaib. Jaib is this opening, which is called in French décolleté, the one going down from the throat down along the chest between the two breasts. That's and that was usually open, or it can be opened in the case we have like knobs and things like that, and then put it there and take it out. It becomes shining without any disease, become white, radiating white. Some people say it's radiating like light. I don't think it's radiating. It's بيضاء من غير سوء. It's white without having a disease, meaning it becomes, because Musa is most likely all indication that he was dark colored. He was darker than the average Egyptian, looks more like an Anubian, like an Abyssinian, maybe slightly fairer, but quite dark. So if you put your hand and take it out, it's white, as if you have, what's the name of this disease, vertigo, or white, completely white, like milk. It looks like a disease, but it's not a disease. And you put it back, it's coming back to the own color. So these two signs, but he has an extra sign for himself. It was mentioned in the Quran, like a prescription for himself. Nobody knows about that. Nobody can apply it and see it. That bring your hands close to your body, like wings, bring the problem like a جناحك. Bring your hands from right and left, like up, normal. Bring them so they touch your side of the chest. The right one touching the right side of the chest, the left one. The moment you do that, your fear disappears. It comes immediately, instantaneously, by divine intervention. Because this is not normal. You can do it as millions of times. It will not calm your fear. But for Musa, it has immediately. This is his private prescription. Similarly to removing his possible existing snake phobia. That was removed for good. And now for any other type of fear, any situation you feel fearful, you fear, just do like this, then the fear is gone. But the two signs for the people of Pharaoh, the rebellious people, is the snake, because that's visible and can be demonstrated, and the hand, that's visible and can be demonstrated to others. The two others, miracles, are private for Musa. Nobody else will experience them. It's private for him. So it's not that Musa's signs are only these two. No, there are two others, but they are hidden. They are private for him, not part of the miracles presented to the house of Pharaoh. Next ayah.
قال ربي إني قتلت منهم نفسا فأخاف أن يقتلون. First translation said Moses, O my sustainer, I have slain one of them, and so I fear that they will slay me. Next translation, he said, My Lord, I killed one of them, and I fear they will kill me.
That's very clear. Next ayah.
وأخي هارون هو أفصح مني لسانا فأرسله معي رد عن
صدقني.
يصدقني إني أخاف أن يكذبون. And my brother Harun is far better in speech than I am. Send him therefore as a helper, so that he might be more eloquently bear witness to my speaking the truth, for I fear indeed that they will give me the lie. Next
Again.
translation.
Yeah. Next translation.
My brother Arun can speak better than I, so send him with me to support me and confirm my words. I fear they will call me a liar.
And this indicates, without saying it clearly, but it has been said also by Pharaoh on another occasion, is that Musa has some problem with speech. He seems to have Aristotle, or he has maybe deformity in the teeth, so that he is not easily understood by others. So he's asking here. He's asking for. It looks as if he's asking for Harun to be sent in support of him. But this is a summary of a longer conversation, which he mentioned in other places, is that he said, send Harun instead of me. Essentially, Allah said, no, we'll send Harun with you as a support for you. So that's summarizing in that and in this way. So that's it. Because I'm afraid they will call me a liar. Thinking innocently that if he is good in expressing himself well, the other side innocently should recognize the truth and accept it, not knowing that knowing the truth is not necessarily the other side will accept it. Arrogance and other diseases of the soul or this characteristic will prevent you from acknowledging the truth, and you will be rejecting it. So that's also a summary of quite a lengthy conversation. So that's the request of Musa, ultimately what they have settled with his Lord in the discussion. And then we get a divine answer to that. قال
سنشد عدودك بأخيك ونجعل لكما سلطانا فلا يصلون إليكما بآياتنا أنتما ومن اتبعكما الغالبون. Said he, we shall strengthen thine arm through thy brother, and endow both of you with power, so that you will not be able to they will not be able to touch you by virtue of our messages. Shall you two and all who follow you prevail? Next translation. God said, we will strengthen you through your brother, and we shall give you both power, so that they cannot touch you with our signs. You and those who follow you will be victorious. So
this is again a third private miracle that don't worry about, because he was complaining that they may kill him because of the issue of killing someone, and they may make a kangaroo court and condemn him to death, although he will argue that it was by mistake, not intentionally, so should not be killed for. But anyway, whatever happens, Allah give him a third private miracle, is that you and your brother, you will have a protection in such a way that they will not be able to lay hand on you. How it is this, how it is in the universe, we don't know. But it seems to be Pharaoh and his guards and so on were never able to approach Musa and apprehend him, which will be doing to anybody else with impunity. In here, they have an internal barrier, or maybe physical barrier, we don't know. Anyway, so they will not be able to reach you with any harm, physical harm. And you, with my message, and the one who follow you, you will be the one who prevail and become victorious. But the protection is private for Musa and Harun. They will not be able to touch you. And they mention in the various books of Tafseer various interesting stories that when Pharaoh sees him, he is so terrified that he cannot control his urine and urinate like a donkey. Take these stories as, yeah. and just as a joke, more or less, children's stories. Most likely, there's nothing of that established with any good narration or any good isnad. People's imagination are running wild, and they add things from their imagination. Usually, it is if you look at Tafseer, Hila, it has been said or has been reported by the people of the book or things like that, which obviously not reliable anyway. So, but how it works, we don't know. But definitely, the whole story, whole history showed clearly that we're never able to put their hand on him and Harun. They were able to put on the Israelites and continue killing some of them, yes, but not Musa and Harun. So this is the third private miracle, in addition to the other public miracles which are this to Musa, to Pharaoh and his ministers and his soldiers. Okay. And ultimately, you will be the one who prevails with the one you follow you and the one accept our messages. You will prevail. Okay, so there's a promise which will be fulfilled with certitude. No way it will fail. Next ayah.
فلما جاءهم موسى بآياتنا بينات قالوا ما هذا إلا سحر مفترى وما سمعنا بهذا في آبائنا الأولين. But as soon as Moses came unto them with our clear messages, Pharaoh and his great ones said, all this is nothing but spellbinding eloquence devised by man, and never did we hear the like of this, nor hath it ever been heard of in the time of our forebears of old.
Okay, so that's obviously Musa met Harun. The Old Testament mentioned that Musa, before he left, when he heard about the death of Pharaoh, possibly through a communication from Harun, Harun knows, he informed Harun that he's in Madian, in safe place, and they have communication by letters, not on a daily basis, obviously. They didn't have email at that time, but every few months they may communicate with each other with letters carried by caravans and business people, like in the old-fashioned way, which was valid until almost a century ago. Common people use a caravan or someone going for business, give him a letter, which bring it to this and this. And it seems to be it's Harun who wrote to him that Pharaoh died. But this news comes spread widely by caravans. And then Musa wrote to him back, okay, I'm coming back, meet me at the place which nobody can miss each other, at Aqaba, which is called Ilat al-Aqaba nowadays. That place we can meet because he has to go on the top there and then turn to Egypt there. That's the only way you can go from Midian to back to Egypt. So make sure that you come there and wait for me. Obviously, there are places where caravans and so on meet the usual way, well, a major crossing place. So you can make that an appointed place. So that's in the Old Testament. Quran does not mention all that is irrelevant. He goes, obviously, continue his way. He will find now the way he goes to Aqaba and find Harun and then tell him the order he received, and both decide to go back to Egypt and go to Pharaoh. And then the stories sometimes say that they were kept at the door for some time until Pharaoh admitted them. It doesn't matter if they were kept at some time or admitted them directly. All of this is not relevant. Relevant is that he enters with Pharaoh, and other scholars give the detail of discussion before showing the miracles. But here the Quran is abridging all of that because he is focusing here at the story before being appointed, from his birth, etc. And he showed them the two miracles, the snake and the stick turning with snake and the hand turning white. That's visible and clear. And what's the response? This must be fabricated illusion. Sihr muftara. Sihr meaning something hidden from illusion, something. He's an illusion artist, and this is all fabricated. Can't be that what we see is reflects any reality. And we have never seen here anything similar in our previous generations. And that there's a bit of lie because they did hear something like that several centuries ago when Yusuf was there, and he brought evidences and so on. But they glossed over that, at least at this stage. Okay. So next
ayah.
Next ayah.
وقال موسى ربي أعلم بمن جاء بالهدى من عنده ومن تكون له عاقبة الدار إنه لا يفلح الظالمون. First translation. Just a second. Just a second. And Moses replied, "My sustainer knows best as to who comes with guidance from him and to whom the future belongs. Verily, never will evildoers attain to a happy state." Next translation. Moses said, "My Lord knows best who has come with guidance from him and whose end will be best in the hereafter. Those who are unjust do not succeed."
Okay, so that's clear. That's obviously after a long discussion. No, you know that these evidences from the Lord of the universe, you see clearly that they are not witchcraft, etc. A long discussion mentioned part of it in other surahs, but here, as I said, Al-Qasas focuses on his story before prophethood. And this includes the issue of marrying the girl, etc. All of these stories that's not barely mentioned anywhere else. That's the only place which is mentioned in full. So that's the focus. So summary, after back and forth, Moses said, "My Lord knows who is," so, and then it continues. We know that there was a challenge and so on from other surahs, but let's see if this surah mentions the challenge and the magician or not. Next ayah.
وقال فرعون يا أيها الملأ ما علمت لكم من إله غيري فأوقد لي يا هامان على التين فاجعل لي سرحا لعلي أطلع إلى إله موسى وإني لأظنه من الكاذبين. Whereupon Pharaoh said, "O nobles, O you nobles, I do not know that you could have any deity other than myself." Well then, O Haman, kindle me a fire for baking bricks of clay, and then build me a lofty tower, that haply I may have a look at the God of Moses. Although, behold, I am convinced that he is one of those who always tells lies. Next translation. Pharaoh said, "Counselors, I have not known you to have a god other than me. Haman, light me a fire to bake clay, and then build me a tower that I may climb up to Moses' God." I think he's a liar.
Okay, so that's very clear. So obviously the story of the magician all skipped in the previous ayah, all of it summarized. And Musa commented, "You know what's the truth. You have seen testified by the miracles, testified by the magician, but this is not mentioned in this surah. That's the job of this surah." So now a specific issue mentioned there is that building a tower, in which he claimed, "I will go up to the tower and see." Obviously, the tower will not reach the heaven, but he's playing game with the mentality of the people, playing with the game. That's very clear. Because how high the tower can go, as high as the pyramid, it won't reach heaven. Heaven is essentially unreachable. But it's okay to play games with the people mind. Some people try to connect that to the pyramids that they are being built this way, and that's also most likely just nonsensical. That's a specific tower, which went maybe like 10, 15 stories, and then it is crumbled, is gone with history. And the bricks have been used for the people to build houses and so on. So no trace of it could have survived anyway. If it is built, maybe it was not built. People that it's futile. It will not reach the heaven anyway. Something that we don't know. But that's what he wanted that, and he asked the minister for construction work and for public works to do that job, which is Haman. That's the main minister, prime minister, and the minister for public works at this time. Next.
واستكبر هو وجنوده في الأرض بغير الحق وظنوا أنهم إلينا لا يرجعون. Thus arrogantly, without the least good sense, did he and his host behave on earth, just as if they thought that they would never have to appear before us for judgment, in brackets. Next translation. He and his soldiers behaved arrogantly in the land, as they did not know the truth, and they thought that they would not return to us.
Okay, so that's clear. And then jump to the final conclusion. You see all the issue with the magician and the 9 miracles, the flood, the frogs, all of that is skipped, and also the proceeding to cross the Red Sea is all skipped until the drowning in the sea is mentioned here. So it's jumping all of that because it's mentioned elsewhere in detail. No need to mention it again. So Al-Qasas is mentioning the origin of Musa up to the escape from Egypt and the marrying of the daughter of the man of Midian, the Midianian man, and so on, and then hitting the road back to Egypt. I'm just summarizing what happened that in a couple of ayahs. That's it. So next ayah.
First, okay. فأخذناه وجنوده فنبذناهم في اليم فانظر كيف كان عاقبة الظالمين. And so we seized him and his hosts and cast them into the sea. And behold, what happened in the end to those evildoers.
Mhm.
Next translation. So we took him and his soldiers and threw them into the sea. See what became of the unjust.
Yeah, so it's clear. That's what we mentioned the final end. Yeah, next.
وجعلناهم أئمة يدعون إلى النار ويوم القيامة لا ينصرون. We destroyed them and we set them up as archetypes of evil so that the way to the fire of hell that shows the way to the fire of hell, and whereas no succor will come to them on resurrection day. Next translation. We made them leaders, calling others to the fire, and on the day of resurrection they will receive no help.
Mhm. That's very clear also. Just commenting on the whole episode, which took maybe 4 or 5 years, all of that summarized in these two ayahs. And the termination of Pharaoh and his army, essentially, by drowning them. Without going into the details, no, the crossing the sea, nothing, all this mentioned elsewhere. Next. Next ayah.
Sorry, 1 second. وأتبعناهم في هذه الدنيا لعنة ويوم القيامة هم من المقبوحين.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
First translation: we have caused a curse to follow them in this world as well as in this world as well, and on resurrection day they will find themselves among those who are bereft of all good. Next translation: and we pursued them with a curse in this world, and on the day of resurrection they will be among the despised.
The spies are the most ugly ones. Qabih is ugly, the most ugly ones. That's opposite of beautiful and hasan, good. The most ugly and most evil ones. Mm-hmm. So the next, that's just the status. What's the conclusion? Next.
ولقد آتينا موسى الكتاب من بعد ما أهلكنا القرون الأولى بصائر للناس وهدى ورحمة لعلهم يتذكرون. And then indeed, after we had destroyed those earlier generations of sinners, we vouchsafed unto Moses our revelation as a means of insight for men, and as a guidance and grace, so that they might bethink of themselves of us. Next translation. After we had destroyed the early generations, we gave Moses the book as enlightenment to the people, and as mercy, as guidance and mercy, so that they might be reminded.
Yeah, that's very clear. So this is after crossing the sea and coming back to the Mount Sinai, to the real Mount Sinai, to Mount Horeb, where he received the tablets and also received further revelation, which are in the scrolls, mentioned the Quran. And the book, which is with these various components, is obviously an enlightenment, opening the eyes of the people to the insight, and it is guidance and mercy to people who want to study and remember. So that they may study and remember.
Next ayah. وما كنت بجانب الغربي إذ قضينا إلى موسى الأمر وما كنت من الشاهدين. First translation. Now, as for thee, O Muhammad, thou wert not sent on the sunset slope of Mount Sinai when we imposed the law upon Moses, nor wert thou among those who witnessed his times. Next translation.
Yeah.
You, Prophet, were not on the western side of the mount when we gave our command to Moses, and you were not a witness.
No, it's not the western side. It's Al-Gharbi, the western one, without mentioning what this western man means. This need to be scrutinized. It's not a tour. ما كنت بجانب الغربي قضينا الأمر. So it must be this mountain is west for something significant, maybe west to the sea, or west to some another mountain or something. But it's called Al-Gharbi. So it's a Tur and Al-Gharbi. Okay. So it must be Gharbi relative to something else. That's called Al-Gharbi. Okay. besides calling Mount Horeb in the Old Testament or Harb currently and so on. Okay. So you were not there, but we are the one who sent there, and we're reporting that here. So you are reporting from Ghaib, which you did not attend, but the one who was there and have complete witness is telling you these stories, which are confirming to the truth exactly, not that within the Old Testament, which may contain fabrication and lies. So this should be the measure, and within the Old Testament, we call Old Testament, in Exodus, in Deuteronomy, and so on, and the Genesis should be measured according to this, or not the opposite. Okay? Next
ayah. ولكننا أنشأنا قرونا فتداول عليهم الأمور وما كنت ثاويا في أهل مدين تتلو عليهم آياتنا ولكننا كنا مرسلين. Nay, but between them and thee we brought into being many generations, and long was their span of life, and neither didst thou dwell among the people of Midian, conveying our messages unto them. Nay, but we have always been sending our message bearers unto man. Next translation. But we produced many generations after Moses and dragged life on for them. You were not dwelling among the people of Midian, reciting our verses to them, but we have always sent messages to the people.
So as mentioned, speaks the people of Midian, not because it's after Musa, it's actually before, but because Musa was in Midian, so it's suitable to mention that the people Musa met with them, maybe the remainder of the believer of Shu'aib. So it's not Shu'aib, as we said. This was a mistake, but some people think the father of two girls, is Shu'aib. It can't be. And also Old Testament says clearly it's not Shu'aib and so on. So it must be from generation after that, because clearly he talks about Egyptian and say, you are escaped the unjust people, so they are believers somehow. They are monotheists and believers. So they must have inherited the message of Shu'aib before. But the story of Shu'aib and so on is nowhere in the Old Testament, nowhere in any historic record. So where did Muhammad get it? You were not there. We were there. And we are telling the story, which is mentioned also in the Quran. So this is a suitable place to mention that you have not been there. And no wonder that the people of the book, they have no connection to these ancient stories, nor in details about it. But we have been there, and we have sent, and we have revealed that to you. The same applies beside Midian, also Thamud and Ad. There's nowhere any trace in the Old Testament about them. There's a bit about Ibrahim, but not these two others. And these two others are far away. But in this context, mentioning Midian is a good idea, related to the story that he dwelled in Midian for some time. Okay. Next.
وما كنت بجانب الطور إذ ناديتنا ولكن رحمة من ربك لتنذر قوما ما آتاهم من نذير من قبلك لعلهم يتذكرون. And neither wert thou present on the slope of Mount Sinai when we called out to Moses, but thou too art sent as an act of thy sustainers' grace to warn people to whom no warner has come before thee, so that they might bethink themselves of us. In translation, nor were you on the side of the mountain when we call Moses, but you were sent as a mercy from your Lord to warn a people to whom no messenger had come before, so that they might be reminded.
So you see, he's mentioning the call on the Mount Sinai, on the Tur, after mentioning Madian. So Madian and the messenger was before that, as we said clearly. But you were also not at the side of that. So all this information, where did you get it? You get it from us, which obviously refused the claim that he got it from the Old Testament, because the story is significantly different than from the Old Testament. So from where he get it? From himself? Did he created it? Why did he change it? All these things will put everyone on the spot. We have to admit either it's from a divine origin or someone who's mentally deranged, but it doesn't fit in the context that's mentally deranged, etc. Usual evidence of prophethood. Because the story, as mentioned by Prophet at Mount Sinai and all these details, fits with some of this in the Old Testament, but it changes considerable aspect. Why the change? Who did the change? Why should Muhammad do the change if he took it from the Old Testament? There's no motivation to the change. And the wise man will not do a change. A mentally deranged will not do a change without a motivation. So you have to explain it. There's no explanation except that it's a revelation. And the Quran says, give you an explanation. You were not there. We were there, and we're telling you what was happened there because we're witnessing of all things. So that's what they have in their books, which deviate from that. What we reveal to you must be wrong and fabrication. That's the truth. Okay, next.
ولولا أن تصيبهم مصيبة بما قدمت أيديهم فيقولوا ربنا لولا أرسلت إلينا رسولا فنتبع آياتك ونكون من المؤمنين.
I was talking about Quraysh now, yeah. Translation.
And we have sent the lest they say on Judgment Day, when disaster befalls them as an outcome of what their own hands have wrought. O our sustainer, if only thou had sent an apostle unto us, we would have followed thy messages and would have been among those who believe. Next translation. And so also they would not say, if struck by an affliction for what their hands have done, our Lord, if only you had sent us a messenger, we would have followed your revelations and become believers.
Next slide, it's very clear. So that's one of the reasons for sending messengers, that the people will have no argument Yawm al-Qiyamah, the one who received the message. Now, we did send to you messengers. Did you follow? No. So we have no excuse. Next.
فلما جاءهم الحق من عندنا قالوا لولا أوتي مثل ما أوتي موسى أولم يكفروا بما أوتي موسى من قبل قالوا سحران تظاهرا وقالوا إنا بكل كافرون. And yet now that the truth hath come unto them from us, they say, why has he not been vouchsafed the like of what Moses was vouchsafed? But did they not also before this deny the truth of what Moses was vouchsafed? For they do say, two examples of delusion seemingly supporting each other, and they add, behold, we refuse to accept either of them as true. Next translation. But even when the truth came to them from us, they said, why was the prophet not given signs like those given to Moses? Did they not previously deny what Moses was given? They said, these are just two magicians supporting each other, and we deny each of them.
So they claim, why didn't you bring miracles like the one of Moses? But you have denied and declared Musa to be a magician anyway. So how you bring this argument? If you have been believing with Musa before that, then you may have an argument. Then we will respond to that. But you're not believing in Musa in any way before that. So this argument is invalid. It is just an attempt to get out of the trouble by invoking something which you don't believe and make it as a premises, which is not invalid. It's rationally self-defeating. Next.
قل فأتوا بكتاب من عند الله هو أحدى منهما أتبعه إن كنتم صادقين. Say, produce then another revelation from God, which would offer better guidance than either of those two, and I shall follow it if you speak the truth. Next translation. Say, if you are truthful, then bring a book from God that gives better guidance than either of them, that I may follow it.
So because you say these are two magicians, okay? So the books they bring are fabricated. They are not. They don't care take guidance. Okay. So they claim they are magician. Bring something better. So that I'm ready to follow that if you can. That's again the same challenge. Bring something to the Quran or some surah. In other places, it's structured more detailed. Here is just in general sentence. In the general, okay, you claim this is all witchcraft and magic is or mythical theory of the past. Fine, bring something better, so we can follow it. In the case of Muhammad salam, that's in their hand. What's in their hand is on the table, and there is no mythical there. And some of the miracles are already present in front of them, like the splitting of the moon, or like the challenge of the defeat of the Romans, and the wager around that, and then other miracles coming in sequence, one after one, continuously. So bring something better than that. So then we know that you are thinking the truth. Clearly they cannot. So it's just stubborn denial out of arrogance and psychological diseases and choices, unwillingness to submit and surrender to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Next ayah.
وإن لم يستجيبوا لك فاعلم أنما يتبعون أهواءهم ومن أضل ممن اتبع هواه بغير هدى من الله إن الله لا يهدي القوم الظالمين. And since they cannot respond to this, thy challenge, know that they are following only their own likes and dislikes. And who could be more astray than he who follows but his own likes and dislikes without any guidance from God? Verily, God does not grace with his guidance people who are given to evil doing. Next translation. But if they do not respond to you, then know that they are only following their whims and desires, and who is more lost than the one who follows his own whims and desires without guidance from God. God does not guide unjust people.
Exactly. So it's very clear that they will not fulfill that ever. It's a matter of desire. They want to have power. They want to have control over the other people. They want to have just dominance without any justification and so on. And in that case, you have to deny everything which contradicts your desires. But desires are not the rational way, because guidance from Allah is coming from, by definition, Allah is the ultimate rational. So any guidance from there or from reason, at least for human reason, is a glimpse of the divine reason. So if you don't follow that and follow desires, you will be misguided. There's no way you will be guided ever until you overcome your desires and push yourself down into submission. Next.
Next ayah. وَلَقَدْ وَصَّلْنَا لَهُمُ الْقَوْلَ لَعَلَّهُمْ يَتَذَكَّرُونَ. Now indeed, we have caused this word of ours to reach mankind step by step, so that they might learn to keep it in mind. Next translation. Just a second. Sorry.
Next translation.
Yeah, just trying to find it. We have continuously conveyed the word to them that they might take heed.
And because the Quran, the way it's conveyed, is conveyed over 23 years, bit by bit. So it will encourage to comment on events, to clarify things, while previous revelation usually come in like a one portion or a block or a short time. Like the tablets were written in while Musa was in the Mount Sinai, the tablets, but also the other scrolls, according to what the Jews claim, it was dictated to him also in Mount Sinai, and he wrote them down. So all it at that time. That's when they were at Mount Sinai or at Tur. They were only for a few months, maybe 8 months or something. Then they moved from the east side of the Jordan. That's in the wilderness where they stayed for 40 years. So the wilderness is not in the current so-called Sinai. That's a mistake. It's there. Nothing new came there. Maybe just some commands and so on. A few, all the revelation was done in one block. But here it is coming bit by bit, addressing issues and discussing with issues and so on, which will give better opportunity of learning and absorbing and keeping. But this is even, unless you control your desires, is not going to help either.
Next ayah.
Yeah.
الذين آتيناهم الكتاب من قبله هم به يؤمنون. As for those whom we have vouchsafed revelation aforetime, they are bound to believe in this one as well. Next translation. Those to whom we gave the book before are bound to believe it. Some
of them at least. And the others are bound to believe it if they are fair. Some of them are not fair, again, following desire. So it does not mean that all of them will believe it immediately. The reality is that only few of them believe. That the few who believe, they have mentioned the grounds for that, which is irrefutable. So it's binding on the others. The others are obviously sticking to their desires and to their imaginary constructions. Okay, next ayah.
وإذا يتلى عليهم قالوا آمنا به إنه الحق من ربنا إنا كنا من قبله مسلمين. First translation. And whenever it is conveyed unto them, they are bound to profess, we have come to believe in it, for behold, it is the truth from our sustainer. And verily, even before this have we surrendered ourselves unto him.
So that's a section of the view of the books before Islam. They were Muslim, they're true believer. The moment Islam came, they immediately embraced it because it's clear, it's confirmed what they have and correct, because they knew the one who was really submitted to the faith, they know that what they have in their hand is not perfect. It's mixed up, it has fabrications. You don't need to be genius to do that. Maybe common, simple, commanded, common people do not know that, are misled by their scholars and their monks and so on. But the real scholars who review the old literature and so on, they recognize it can't be all divine. But what is divine, what's not divine, most likely they will go see what is the common denominator of everything. That's Tawheed, that's basic commandments, that must be from God. The rest, just ignore it. So they were ready. The moment the final revelation came, confirming that and clarifying and checking out the other things which they were already doubting, it was clear to them. Immediately they embraced Islam. So after Islam has come, the monotheist Christians at the time, many of the Jews who are really genuinely monotheistic and so on, they embraced Islam and they disappeared. Usually from the common people and so on, not from the scholars, because many of the so-called scholars are really sellouts, and they are out for dominance and getting people's wealth and misguiding them for money and wealth, which is very unfortunate. But as the Quran says clearly, إن كثيرا من الأحبار والرهبان يأكلون أموال الناس بالباطل ويصدون عن سبيل الله والذين يكنزون الذهب والفضة وينفقون في سبيل الله فبشرهم بعذاب أليم. So there's many of the monks at the tribe and scribes which you expect them to be the best, turn out to be the worst. They are just in scholarship and in pretending piety and living in monasteries just to control the people and accumulate their wealth. Many of them, at least, which means the majority. Only a minority, the good ones, the minority disappeared after Islam. In a short time, the moment they received Islam, they recognize it, it's gone, it's a game over. But the others could not overcome their desire for control, for wealth, for money, for dunya. Their belief and their scholarship is fake. It's not going deep enough to guide them into the truth. And that's history. History shows that. Next.
أولئك يؤتون أجرهم مرتين بما صبروا ويدرؤون بالحسنة السيئات ومما رزقناهم ينفقون.
So it's praising these category of people. Translate.
These it is that shall receive a twofold reward for having been patient in adversity and having repelled evil with good deed. With good, and having spent on others out of what we provided for them as sustenance. Next translation. They will be given their reward twice for what they patiently endured, and because they ward off evil with good and give from what we have provided for them.
As I said, after Islam coming, very short time, all of the remaining good Christian, really good Jews, who are usually from the common folk, not from the scholarship, but some of the scholarship, but very few. Unfortunately, the majority of scholarship was about evil and out for control and power, not really for, like our scholarship down there. Look at them. The majority are really a disgrace. Unfortunately, that's what happened to almost every religion. And because scholarship is done for dunya, for positions, for power, for control, for fulfilling internal desires, not out real devotion. And the more the society is sick, the more of sick types that come forward. So the others one, they are disappeared. They joined Islam. You don't find anything. What remained after that, after Islam has spread all over the earth in 50, 60, 70 years, what remains are the stubborn in denial and the one who are deep in their fabrication and their self-seclusion and arrogance. Yeah. Next.
وإذا سمعوا اللغو أعرضوا عنه وقالوا لنا أعمالنا ولكم أعمالكم سلام عليكم لا نبتغي الجاهلين. First translation. And whenever they heard frivolous talk, having turned away from it and said, Unto us shall be accounted our deeds, and unto you your deeds. Peace be upon you, but we do not seek out such as are ignorant of the meaning of right and wrong. Next translation.
It seems so, yeah. Next translation, yeah.
When they hear useless talk, they turn away from it and say, "We have our deeds and you have your deeds. Peace be with you. We do not seek the company of the ignorant."
There are various narrations that some delegation came from Abyssinia and from other places, like in North Arabia, East, West, and so on, even in Meccan period. And they came to check this new prophet. They heard about it, so they came. And then the Quraysh was very jubilant. Now they come refute Muhammad, and they were surprised that they, after listening to him, and they regard that's the truth which we have previously, now purified and presented correctly, and they could verify it, and they embraced Islam. They became believer before going back home. So the Quraysh insulted them, saying, "People, you send you to refute this man and scrutinize him, and then you follow him." So they say, "We are not going to listen to this frivolous, nonsensical talk. Our deeds is, we are responsible for our deeds, you are responsible for your deeds. We are not going to listen to the ignorant people." And they went back to their people, bringing that message. Obviously, their people, some accepted, some didn't accept it, as we know from history. Okay.
Next ayah. إنك لا تهدي من أحببت ولكن الله يهدي من يشاء وهو أعلم بالمهتدين. First translation. Verily, thou canst not guide thou canst not guide aright everyone whom thou lovest, but it is God who guides him that wills to be guided, and he is fully aware of all who would let themselves be guided. Next translation. You cannot guide to the truth whom you love, but God guides the one who wants to be guided, and he knows best those who are guided.
Yeah, this is very clear the meaning, but there's some narration that is related to Abu Talib when he was in his deathbed. Quraysh rushed to his bedside to prevent him from becoming Muslim at his deathbed, and the Prophet came to his and they played the tribal arrogance and so on, allegedly, according to the story. I'm doubting about the story a little bit, even if I think in Bukhari, for reasons I mentioned maybe on another occasion, not today, about the isnad and other issues. And the Prophet told him, "My uncle, say one word which I can argue for the sake of for your sake in Yawm al-Qiyamah, in Allah." Because he was, during his life, clearly did not embrace Islam openly. The same with Abu Abbas and so on. And majority of his family, direct families. And the Qurayshi, Abu Jahl, and so on, they say, "Are you going to forsake the religion of Abdul Muttalib?" They said the religion of your forefather, until allegedly he died saying he is on the religion of Abdul Muttalib and things like that. The reason I'm doubting, besides the issue of Isnad, which is at the moment present in my mind, but the context seems to be related to the issue of these people of the book coming and scrutinizing, and the ayah after that does not show it is, but the ayah could have been recited again in the case of Abu Talib. It's not impossible, but the context here does not seem to be related to Abu Talib or anything like that. So there, the ayah after that, we'll see what the. So if I mention the people who embrace Islam upon meeting the Prophet and understanding him, standing by Abyssinia and elsewhere, and instead of refuting him, as they have been said by their own people, the strange man go and refute him. They embraced Islam and came back with the message back to their people, and they just tell the Quraysh, "We are not going to argue with the frivolous talk of Jahilin," and then say, Allah is addressing Prophet, "You are not going to guide the people you love." Because he loved the people of Quraysh, his own people, more than these strangers who come from elsewhere. It's not that Allah will guide only those who are willing to be guided, willing to do the work, do the ministerial work at least. That the one who do not do that, Allah will not guide them. That don't waste your energy in that, because it's the way the universe is fashioned is fundamental. It's not going to change. Because Allah knows who is worthy of guidance, the one who wants to guidance, the one who really open for guidance. And then the ayahs after that will show that it's really the talking about Qurayshi general, not about Abu Talib specifically, but it could be about Abu Talib also. So next ayah.
وقالوا إن نتبع الهدى معك نتخطف من أرضنا أولم نمكن لهم حرما آمنا يجبى إليه ثمرات كل شيء رزقا من لدنا ولكن أكثرهم لا يعلمون. Now some say, if we were to follow the guidance to which thou invitest us, we would be torn away from our very soil. Why have we not established for them a sanctuary secure, to which as a provision from us shall be gathered the fruits of all good things? But most of them are unaware of this truth. Next translation. They say, if you were to follow the guidance with you, we would be torn from our land. Have we not established for them a safe sanctuary, to which are brought all kinds of fruits as provisions from us? But most of them do not understand.
So this is, do not know is more accurate than more than they have no knowledge about that. Some came with the argument, okay, what you're calling for seems to be reasonable and rational, especially after these delegations, what we've seen embraced and so on. But the problem, if we do that, that's the Mecca talking, the people of Mecca, Quraysh is talking, then the surrounding tribes, especially in Najd and so on, they're all deep in paganism. And the only protection we have is that we have share with them the same religion and we are keeping the idols. If you follow you, then the idols are gone. And these tribes and these people will attack us and they will tear us away. We don't have enough manpower and enough soldiers to resist them. And I'll ask them, how come that you claim that? Because this sanctuary was being established long before, even before idols were there, from the time of Ibrahim. And this sanctuary had a divine protection, and it's a valley which has no fruits, nothing, no sustenance, really, a barren valley. And we made it so that goods come from everywhere to this valley by Allah's design. So the issue that you may be torn away from your valley is invalid, but you don't know the original story, how this valley, this Mecca emerged in this valley and became a sanctuary. That's the divine design in the time of Ibrahim. Now, in the final result, you think this is the idols protecting you and that they have synchronized the tribes. That's not true. That's not true. We know from the stories about Amr bin Lihay and so on, that the Qurayshi and the Khuza'a, they are the one who introduced these idols, and the others follow them, not the opposite. So either they don't know history or they try to find a cover up for their unwillingness to accept the guidance. So that's not true. Such an argument is invalid, just the opposite. If they would have abolished the idols, the Arabs would say, oh, Quraysh is our leadership. They are the one who established the idol temples and called us for idol worship. Before that, they were simple monotheists. Now we go back to the roots. So it's the opposite from that what they claim. But this is what people persuade themselves to be complacent and lazy. They don't want to change their way of life. They prefer to stay this way. This way they are in control. This way the business are running nicely. People come respect the sanctuary. They can do business. They can make money. They can make loans because they are the loan center for Arabia, making usury, controlling the business. They are the banking center. So they don't want to give that up. That's the reality. Not that they are afraid of being taken away. Or that. So that's just an argument which has no reality in itself. The motivation is that they don't want to change. They want to keep the control, to keep the wealth, to keep the money, and so on. Next.
Next ayah. وكم أهلكنا من قرية بطرت معيشتها فتلك مساكنهم لم تسكن من بعدهم إلا قليلا وكنا نحن الوارثين. And how many a community that once exalted in its wanton wealth and ease of life have we destroyed, so that those dwelling places of theirs, all but a few, have never been dwelt in after them. For it is indeed we alone who shall remain, and when all else have passed away. Next translation. How many towns have we destroyed, which lived in ease and plenty, but were ungrateful? Here are their dwellings, virtually uninhabited since their time. We have inherited them.
And the same, so the threat to the Quraysh, the same will happen to you. So the ease of life and wealth and banking center and so on can easily disappear, and you will be, if you don't, obviously the destiny of Makkah was different because of divine design, but the threat is there. And it can happen to you if you persist on this in this way. Okay. Next.
وما كان ربك مهلك القرى حتى يبعث في أمها رسولا يتلو عليهم آياتنا وما كنا مهلك القرى إلا وأهلها ظالمون. Yet withal thy sustainer would never destroy a community without having first raised in its midst an apostle who would convey unto them our messages, and never would we destroy a community unless its people are wont to do wrong to one another. Next translation. Your Lord never destroys the cities unless he first sends a messenger in their midst reciting our verses, nor would we destroy cities unless their inhabitants were evil.
Evil or unjust, yeah. Yeah. So this is a general rule. There's no way all these have destroyed as a punishment, but that's for the disbeliefs and rejection of the messengers, not before the coming of the messengers.
Let me know when is a good place to stop. We've got to we've gone through 1.5 hours.
Okay. What's the next ayah?
وما أوتيتم من شيء فمتاع الحياة الدنيا وزينتها وما عند الله خير وأبقى أفلا تعقلون.
We'll finish with this ayah, yeah.
And remember, whatever you are given is but for the passing enjoyment of life in this world and for its embellishment, whereas that which is with God is so much better and more enduring. Will you not then use your reason? Next translation. People, whenever you are given, whatever you are given is only for the passing enjoyment and vanity of this life, but what is with God is better and more lasting. Will you not then use reason?
Yeah. If you use reason, you recognize this is just a passing enjoyment, very limited. Obviously, there's the only enjoyment for the one who doesn't believe in resurrection, doesn't believe in Allah. Ultimately, that's the only thing he has. But the moment you see the reality and penetrate in the depth of the universe and the reality, you recognize, no, it is not like that. There's an eternity, there's a necessarily existing being who spanned the whole universe, starting the whole reality, starting time, all of this. And through the messengerhood, or even by rational consideration, he may have a purpose. And if Revelation says the purpose is to test his creation and qualify those who choose by themselves, by their own effort for eternity, he will choose them to his side. Then obviously that eternity is available and is definitely much better, infinitely much better than the passing enjoyment is dunya. Okay, so we stop here. Note the number of the ayah. Which ayah we stopped at?
Okay, the ayah we stopped at was ayah 60. The next week will be Surah Al-Qasas, ayah 61.
Yeah, okay, next time.
Somebody had to raise their hand. Far away, bruv.
Sheikh, Bismillah, I had a question regarding the penultimate ayah where you mentioned Allah lam yahlika al-qura illa wa ahluha zalimun. My question regarding this is Pompeii. The reason I mentioned Pompeii because Pompeii was famous for its debauchery and crimes and what have you.
Yeah.
And then the Mount Vesuvius. But this happened after Isa alayhi salam.
Yeah.
And is it right to say that there was no prophet after Isa alayhi salam before Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wasallam?
Well, it's just after Isa, a short time, the people of Isa were in Rome, we were in the Italian peninsula, they were spreading the da'wah, they were carrying da'wah everywhere.
Oh, so I didn't realize that it was so soon, because I think it was something like 36 AD or something like that.
No, it is 76, I think. Or
79, I see.
79.
So it could be the preachers of Isa salam warning them. And
yeah, but the message is carried. The message carried in Rome. They started the persecution time of Nero and so on. If we can trust history, because history is not very clear, but clearly there were Jews there. There were people carrying da'wah, and they received the message. They received the warning. And if we interpret it this way, if we interpret it as a destruction, because the Al-Qura is for the case of if it's a punishment, it could be just because the system of the universe a mountain erupts and so on. Sometimes you call the system of universe. In that case, it will be then forgiveness and mercy for those who suffer, because the system of universe requires that mountains, some volcanoes erupt, some tsunamis will have to sweep over other areas and so on. You cannot in the universe separate the structure of the universe and this system from the fact that there will be tsunamis, there will be volcanoes and so on. So not every calamity like that is necessarily a punishment. But if it's a punishment, there's evidence there's a punishment, then they must have received a message and they have rejected it.
I see.
And then even in that case, not everyone is there is punished. There may be some believer there remaining. Not always believer will immigrate and escape. There may be some there. So they will be treated in Yawm al-Qiyamah according to their beliefs. So it will be for them like a martyrdom, will be extra forgiveness. But there's no way that tsunami or the volcano and the lava will come and shake your face. You're a good man, just veer to the side. It doesn't work this way in this universe. So that's it. So it's very complicated. If you took at the simple-minded idea, you will get in trouble. But the reality is that tsunami happening of place, maybe punishment of some people, and the rest who are not worthy of punishment. What's it? It will be forgiveness of sin and martyrdom. Will add more for them Yawm al-Qiyamah. Even if you ask them in dunya, they wouldn't like it, but it's not what of liking. That's how the system works, the universe. This is a grand design of the universe. It's not going to stop at the desire of X, Y, Z.
Jazakallah khair. I have another two questions.
Yeah.
The other question is regarding, the alwah of Musa alayhi salam. There you say that these are the 10 commandments. Do we have any reports that mention in the alwah it was 10 commandments?
Oh no, we have كتبنا في كل شيء موعظة. It seems to be they claim it's the 10 commandments, and they claim there are two tablets. The Quran say alwah, plural. Yes. It means to be correcting that's actually more than two. The claim of the Israelites have is that these alwah, both a broken one, because when Musa was angry, he was seeing the people devoted to the golden calf and pulled his brother and so on, he threw the alwah on the ground and they both broken. And the new copy was written to him. Both are broken, and the true copy is allegedly in the Ark of the Covenant. Now, the Ark of the Covenant is lost just before the Babylonic conquest. No, there's no well-established theory what happened to the Ark of the Covenant. There are various theories. One of them is that it has been sent to Abyssinia. The Abyssinian claim it is somewhere there. Another one is that the best what we have is a story in the book of Maccabean, is that Prophet Jeremiah, which is Jeremiah, like Netanyahu, Jeremiah, and so on, took the Ark of Covenant and the tent of meeting and so on. They were saved on the temple of Sulaiman by Wahi, ordered by Wahi, took them, crossed the river Jordan, and went to a mountain, I think a mountain Nebo, and from the backside, he mounted the mountain and found a cave, deep cave, and put them there. And closed the entrance. And the story continues saying, the people with him, because he cannot do it alone, the people with him tried to go and find the cave. And then they couldn't find it. And they asked the Prophet, we went to try to check to find the place. We were unable to locate it, as if we are blinded. We told them, there is no way you will be finding it. It is located there for the one who will come from the clouds. He will get it out. You are not the ones. Just keep up with it. Don't waste your energy in that. So if that story to be believed, question, who is the one coming from the clouds? Is it an indication that human beings who can fly and come from the clouds generally? Or it is mentioned maybe Isa when they come? We don't know. And we don't know if the story is authentic in the first place. But let's assume it's authentic. It will be very interesting to check that mountain with the hope that we are now able to come from the clouds by planes. Maybe we should come the planes and make a scan by radar, deep penetrating radar. Besides also making scan by artificial earthquakes like they do for oil exploration. Maybe we can have a mountain mapping this way and find the cave. But who will finance that? Who will attend to that? Will be an interesting. I have started something called the Jeremiah Project. started writing something like that, but then I left it aside, say leave it. Nobody will do it, most likely.
Jazakallah khair. So you're saying the tablets
So
are
we don't know the tablets. There might be more than two, and most likely that. But the Quran mentioned clearly Suhuf Ibrahim Musa. There are Suhuf, scrolls of Musa. So that must be extra to the tablets. It could be only a copy of the tablets, but it's unlikely because the tablets, even if they're 2, 3, 4, will contain only just major instructions. But allegedly, according to the Jews, he was dictated also and wrote by himself. Beside the tablet written by the divine hand or the divine pen, he was writing with his own hand, his own scrolls. And he was writing for a long time, for a considerable amount of instruction and so on. So, Suhuf, not only one Sahifa. Sahifa is a scroll. Yeah, you know, in all time, there were no books. They were like, they stitch skin after skin and so on for a scroll. And it's not one scroll, it is several scrolls. So most likely the revelation consists of the tablets, which are the main instructions, and the scrolls which he had been dictated allegedly by whether we Jew claims at Mount Sinai. But we have no evidence that in the Quran, except what in the Old Testament that he was being dictated beside the tablets, which he wrote. He was handed the tablets because the scrolls he wrote with his own hand. He has the tablets which have been written by a divine, they call the divine finger. A finger of fire came from heaven and started cutting like laser. So if one day the tablets are found and scrutinized, it will show the miraculous nature of it, how it is cut and so on. If we assume the whole story, that the tablet and so on, and many other things also, not only our covenant is the tablets, according to their stories, there are other things like, for example, a jar of the manna. What is the manna? Some people say it's some kind of truffle, mushroom, the one we call faga in Arabia, and called truffle in France, the very luxurious one, which only pigs can smell and dig out. And 1 gram is costing 20, 30, 40 pounds, something like that. That's truffle. And some people say it's not only the truffle, it's also some kind of like a tree, like the maple syrup, a syrup of a certain tree, but not maple, obviously. In Arabia, we don't have, and in Jordan, in that area, we don't have. But it was whitish, like honey type, very nutritious. So we don't know what the jar is. If the jar is found, we may be able to ascertain what it was. And also, allegedly, there are some because Moses have long hair and sometimes it's cut, and also some beads of his hair are there, and also of Harun, and also his sandals. So we could have the DNA checked if we find that. Otherwise, the stick of Moses is supposed to be the Ark of Covenant, which looks like a sarcophag, like a coffin. So that's what is claimed to be there. Allahu Alam if it is true or not, but the Quran says clearly that the miracle for Talut, that he is appointed king, is that أن يأتيكم التابوت وتحمله فيه بقية ثم ترك آل موسى وآل هارون. So there is something which the house of Harun and Musa have left in that Ark of Covenant, and there's a divine tranquility in that artifact. So something left there by Al Musa and Al Harun. Details in the Old Testament, it seems to be very logical that the tablets would be there, that something, artifacts of Al Musa and Al Harun are there, possibly a jar of manna, possibly a stick, possibly sandals, possibly hair beads, which would be excellent to have a DNA to ascertain which haplogroup they belong to, and all these things can be checked if it's found. Now go ahead and find it. And there are also lost, you know, the movie Raiders of the Lost Ark, of what's his name? The famous one in the
Indiana Jones.
Indiana Jones and so on, Raiders of Lost Ark. It mentioned that stories, but it doesn't rely that it claims that it is somewhere in Egypt. There's no reason to accept that, really. All claims can be. The only one which is really having something in the older scripture is the one in I think in the book of Maccabean, mentioning that Jeremiah put it in this mountain, which sounds very reasonable, because he received revelation that the Babylonians are coming and they will destroy the temple. So he saved this, took also the tent of meeting, which was kept through history, and few other artifacts and put them there and seal the cave. And then his follower tried to find it, told them, nobody will get it. It's only for the one who will come from the cloud. That's what it says in the book of Maccabean. That's the most ancient thing we have. Now, the book of Maccabean is written like 300 years before Christ, 200 years. There's a gap of 400, 500 years from that to the time of Jeremiah. How much you can rely on such stories? There's no evidence to rely on it. It may be completely fabricated, maybe is conserved and kept. The only thing which can be done is that to be optimistic and try to make a scan for that mountain. I think mountain Nebo is mentioned there. What's it? It is not a mountain where we have the grave of Harun. That's well known. That's the mountain. No, one north of that, called Mount Nebo, I think. Okay, that's the best place to be. There's some theory that it even has been taken to Mecca, outside Mecca, in some cave there. It is stored there. Nobody knows. So many speculative theories are going around for thousands of years. But if that story in Maccabean is true, and the one from the clouds, meaning people who can use planes, then there's a good reason to believe that we can do it now. Otherwise, the one from the clouds, who will be Isa ibn Maryam when he comes back. So we'll give up the hope on that anyway. So it's very interesting, but nothing persuasive there, except fantastic stories like Raiders of the Lost Ark and things like that. Okay? And all kinds of wild stories about that. Okay, that's the Ark of the Covenant. But the Ark exists, and whatever the house of Musa and Harun have left, is some of it is there. Some remainder from that. They cannot leave everything, but some is there. Because it's just like a sarcophagus, like a coffin of a dead man. It can't accommodate many things. It should accommodate for the tablets. Maybe scrolls are there. Some scrolls are still there. Maybe the sandals, as allegedly some people allege, the stick is most likely to be there, to be found. And maybe a jar of the manna, which could make a good reason, placed by Harun there specifically. Yeah, that's all what we know. Nothing says and nothing can be relied upon. Good. Next question.
Okay, question answered now. Okay. So in relation to zakat being paid on capital, even if you're not intending to sell it, is there? Sorry. Let me just go back to. There's a few back and forth.
Is on the what we established the principle. It is on the capital, yeah. Except the harvest and so on, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay. So, for example, someone has a value of land. It's not on rental yield. It's on the land itself, yeah.
Yeah, it's not the value according to the market.
So the person's asked for delil for this because the Sahaba owned land at the time of the Prophet. Were they ever commanded to calculate the value of the land and pay zakat on that?
We don't know if they own the land in the sense that it is really extra than their own houses and so on. And then maybe it was exempt from the zakat because they don't own the land until, let's say, the open land is belong to Allah and His Messenger, except if you revive it. So if they don't revive it, the state take it from them anyway. So they're giving a grace. Umar took that back from those who did not revive it, did not turn it into farmland and things like that. Okay.
So was it not in their possession, or it was in their possession through revival and then they didn't pay on it?
And yeah, we don't know. We don't know about that. If they paid it, but maybe they will give it. If they take it from a public land and you get it, revive it, then you can keep it for eternity. Umar ijtihad is that to take it back unless you revive it. I just return it back to the public land. So it's not your ownership. It's not unlimited ownership forever.
So if it was your ownership, then there would be...
It has to be, because maybe there's exception there, but you have to bring the exception. Because the Prophet says clearly, قد عفوت عن البغال والحمير وعن وليس على فرس المؤمن هذا. So meaning if he had the other horses than just one, his own horse, which he uses for fighting and transport, and they say that this apply for one car and so on. There is an exception. Because the phrase of عفوت عن كذا, I forgave that. I don't ask for that. Meaning, as a head of state, you can exclude certain wealth which is not significant. At the time, that was not significant. Was of no significance. Land ownership like what we have nowadays and real estate does not exist like that. But later it was developed. But later, when it was developed like that, the ruling system was deformed, and the government was not doing zakat properly as it should be. So we cannot take that out. The only thing which we have is to go back to the general ayah في أموالهم حق معلوم للسائل والمحروم in all their wealth. Any exclusion must be established by an exception, not the opposite.
I see.
So that's the correct way to go. And we have then the thing that the Prophet say, عفوت عن كذا, عفوت عن كذا, I have forgiven that. And he made discounts, for example, if you estimate that for the palm trees, that's so much there, he ordered the tax collector, they deduct a fifth or something for the people, or the people, because they go usually to the plantation owner, they go to him and live there and have, during the harvest season, they eat from it for a certain time. Say, leave something for the people to eat as a gift from the owner, and leave something for him, for his, and then on the rest. So don't go sharp by exactly, you estimate it will bring 1,000 ton. You don't take the 10% or the 5% of 1,000 ton. Make a discount, like 800. Be more towards lenient down. Give discounts. But that's left to the collector and the system. Obviously, in modern state, there will be executive order, it will be law specifying what should be left, what shouldn't be left, exception, and things like that.
So
But principle, all the harvest, the cut must be paid.
So in a similar way, if we were to make an analogy, I don't know if it's valid to make an analogy, but you've got a fixed land which has a value, and you have a rental yield. Would the zakat be on the
Leave the rental yield. That's another issue. This is the rental yield, for example, is that liable, or the land itself as a capital? That could be discussed. Shia adopt that the rental yield and the salaries and so on are liable for the fifth. So a new ijtihad has to be done in that. The principle is clear. For things harvested, take from the time of the harvest as indicated in the hadith, 10% or 5%, depending upon how it is being had, and by analogy. The other, for every money في أموالهم حق معلوم. Details are left to the head of state with some borders specified by the Prophet. That's the way to go. Start from there. وفي حق معلوم للسائل في every man. Now, which exclusion are there? And the guarantor exclusion must be seen from the Prophet.
So
and the head of state, if it's done properly. After Khulafa Rashidin, nothing was done properly. We know that. So we cannot take any authority from that. It's actually all done improperly. We know that. That's finished. So remain only. Even Uthman, one of his issues is that he allowed the people to keep half of their zakat and send it by themselves, not give it to the zakat collector. And that was one of the main reasons of argument with him. Because at the time, Bakr or Umar, you are not allowed to do that. It's the collector who comes and collects. You are not allowed to do your zakat by yourself. The tax collector comes according to the instruction he had from Prophet ﷺ. And he counts and collects and so on. Okay?
Okay, so basically, in this specific issue of rental and land and rental yield, we'll need a new ijtihad.
All of them need it. Even land. The land is you may say if the land is the wealth, is a mal, and the matter of yield is different because how to look at the yield. But definitely in the case of harvest, it's harvested a certain percent depending upon it is being ba'li, irrigated by the sky and by floods, or irrigated by pumps and so on, or in between proportionally, accordingly. That's from the harvest, and this is does not need to wait a year. The moment harvest season has come, estimate is done, how much is it, and does that collector come and take it, either itself or the equivalent value of it.
So if a person alive today, in the absence of a state,
then you have to take to be in the safe side. Every wealth except excluding your own house and your etc. You have to account everything, cryptos, bank accounts, add everything and take 2.5%. Then you are in the safe ground. You regard it like gold and silver, every asset, excluding your own car, excluding whatever it is. If you have a slave, there's no slave left, but you have like a ride animal, things like that, which the hadith clearly exclude. ليس على عبد المؤمن صدقة في عبده وفرسه. عبده وفرسه. His slave, his own slave, and faras. Meaning, the other slaves and the faras are extra wealth. So it's money. So it should be covered in the general ayah. But I said this has to be, the ijtihad there has stopped really since the time of Rashidin. And the first ijtihad which was in the wrong direction is Uthman ijtihad, of allowing the people to bring half. So there's enough money in the treasury, we don't need to do that. That was a mistake. They made a very bad precedence. Should be cancelled, should not be accepted. So it needs some work, some real hard work.
Okay. On a related note, in terms of, so this provision for people paying the zakat themselves, even in the state, is that based off of the fact that the state is responsible for collection of all zakat?
خذ من أموالهم صدقة. خذ, take. You take.
So if anyone, for example, so do you remember that conversation we were having in when we met, and his brother mentioned about he considered what Abu Bakr radiallahu did in terms of fighting people for withholding zakat and not giving it. He considered that almost like a dhulm. So that's a good counter to that, because it's the state's responsibility to collect it all. Yeah,
it's responsibility. Yeah, definitely. There's no discussion about that. The only one who deviates from that is Uthman. That's not an issue.
Yeah. No problem. Okay. Next question. Somebody asked last week. You mentioned about how did you reach the conclusion that Deborah could have been a prophet or is a prophet?
Because the Old Testament, the story is there. Go and read it. And all indication is that it's impossible that the whole story is fabricated. That's it. That's it. How do you reach the conclusion? That's a narrative there. Unless you say it's completely fabricated, never existed, which is a tall order. That's in the time of Judges. Just read there and go. How to reach the conclusion? I told you, this is in the Old Testament, and this, unlikely there's complete fabrication.
Well, it's not an issue for creed for us because it's not transmitted.
It's just an irrelevant issue. It's a relevant issue. The prophet and messenger is closed anyway, so the whole theory is a philosophical issue. But from the wording of the Quran, the claiming is that when they ask that why Allah does not send angels, the Quran says, before you we send only men, and they were peerages and so on. That's in opposition, in answering to the question about the angels. So interpreting Rijal as males is not necessary. It could be humans which have two legs. That's the original meaning of Rajul, the one who talks in two legs. Mostly male, but it can be also female, linguistically also. And the context indicates that it's opposite to did it happen in history? We don't know. We have an example, like Deborah. And there's no reason to believe that she was not a messenger or a prophet. Yeah, for example, that's it, simple. And the usual conclusion is that this ayah, taken out of context, because it's a response to asking for angels. Now, angels are neither men nor female. The correct point of view is that they don't have a gender. So the opposite of them is Rijal, without gender, or possibly with gender. There's nothing balancing that to necessity. And the other argument is usually the fabricated hadith. No people who succeed who will give authority to a woman. We know it's fabricated now. So what is that is there? Is it the issue of creed? It's irrelevant. When a woman comes as a messenger, she will bring the evidences that she's a messenger with her. That's it. Will ever come? No, nobody will come ever. And also the hadith about that I am the seal of the prophets, and after me will be 30 kadhabun, from them 3 women. He did not say because they are women they cannot be prophets. He say all of them kadhabin. وأنا خاتم النبيين. So after me there will be no prophet, male or female. It's implicit that's possible. But the usual argument of Al-Hazm is that for prophethood, not for messengerhood. But the hadith in the full, if you read the hadith in full, كلهم يزعم أنه رسول الله. كلهم يزعم أنه رسول الله. So he did not exclude the woman because they cannot be Rasul, because he is the final one, final messenger, final Rasul. Okay, so I think I think the claim is a woman could be a prophet, but general evidence of the Quran is correct according to Ibn Hazm, but he excluding men based on this faulty hadith and based on taking the ayah ما أرسلنا من قبلك إلا رجالا نوحي إليهم من القرى and etc. is taken out of the context because it responds to the question why Allah does not send angels.
Okay, got some political questions. Not sure.
So I don't think this is the worthy of much discussion. The whole issue is sometimes people blow it out of. It boils down with certitude to a historic issue. Ideologically, in principle, I think the point of view is that Ibn Hazm claiming that men can be only messenger men, but they can be a woman could be prophet, which majority of scholars dissent to it anyway, is making an exception for the misreading of the ayah, and also believing that this hadith, the Prophetic hadith, being correct. That's it. That's the problem. Then when to have these two things out of the way, then it's no reason to believe that rijala means necessary. And we have the evidence of the hadith rajul dhakar concerning the next of kin who will take whatever remains after fara'id, which is rajul dhakar, meaning that rajul is not necessarily meaning dhakar. It has to be rajul dhakar. So all of that taken together solve the problem. I don't think it's a problem. It's not worth any discussion. The main problem is to refute the hadith. No people will succeed unless if they appoint Umar in leadership. That's proven now. I think with certitude that it's a fabrication. So that's gone. That's gone. Okay, so that's it.
Okay, got a couple of political questions. Maybe they can be, if there's anything relevant, we can also do it after the Palestine update. But a lot of Islamic thinkers and commentators are of the opinion when highlighting the UAE crimes that Sheikh Zayed, i.e. MBZ's father, was a proper Muslim leader and better than the current rulers. How much truth is there in that? And was he Islamic?
I don't care. Why we care about that? The man is dead and gone. So what is relevant for the current policy and current situation of the state? And then said they proper leader. What do you mean proper leader? What's the evidence for that? Which laws he was enacting?
Yeah, it's a general rule. I mean, look, Islam has to be your reference point. There doesn't seem to be any of these states have used Islam exclusively as their reference point.
He's a complete ignorant, so we could say he's excused ignorant that he was applying kufr in certain areas. We have to check all the laws at that time.
Also, the history of them, they've always been agents.
Yeah, I think getting stuck with these things are I don't know what does it mean. The question does not make any sense. It's not when we say the current rulers, we say all evidences that they are munafiq kafir, but that's not a relevant point. They're ruling with kufr and they are allies with kuffar and fighting at the kuffar banner, evidently and clearly. That's a fact. Now, some of them are a believer and they're misguided or misunderstanding or having ta'wil. That's between them and Allah. It's irrelevant. Are they worthy of being unseated and exterminated by war? Yes. That's the issue. For you, the issue is that should they left in power or removed by force? They should be removed by force when the capability and the situation is ready. That's it. Simple. That's a question. It's not a question of classifying him as a good man or a bad man or he go to Jahannam. Allah did not give you the keys of Jannah and Jahannam.
Do you recall his rule back then? Did you have any opinion back then?
It's irrelevant. I don't have any opinion, really, any detailed opinion. It was not relevant, really. Imarat was not relevant at the time. We know it is a construct by the British, and they collected them together and put them in a union so that Ibn Saud does not follow them, because at the time the Saudis and all the time essentially more or less American agents, and the Americans wanted to swallow that in their belly at that time. So they have the issue with some fights about some oases there. I don't remember the name of the oases and so on. And they wanted also to make them persist against, because they belong to Oman. Actually, this is the so-called coastal area of Oman anyway. So they want to stabilize them and create an entity. It's an artificial entity anyway. Now the question is created by the British, so we can starting really it is a construct of the kuffar anyway, so it can't be a legitimate entity in the first place. Secondly, what after that, after becoming formally independent, which rules and laws were there? You check the rules and laws. You don't need to ask me about Sheikh Zayed. Is he a good man, bad man? What's that's relevant for you? the entity and the policies, are that what relevant for you?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, if the person's got a time machine, you can ask him, go back in time and ask him.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Are you familiar with the situation of US occupation leaving Syria?
Occupation in what? In Syria? Yeah,
Syria.
seems to be they have, all the forces have left already.
Okay. What was the driver behind that? Is that because of they've given up? Was that from the Kurdish areas or?
I don't know, because this policy of Trump is to focus on certain areas and circle Iran and so on. Obviously, this is failing now. The whole situation has changed now. This is not.
Okay.
But what is the relevance of now? They have, after they have left. Is it really or not really? It's really, they have left.
So it's in line with his policy and possibly to try and
because maybe the regime in Damascus is enough for their agenda. They will do the job. They don't need to be there. And being there caused problem for them more than benefit. So they moved from there. And they have better bases in Jordan and in Iraq.
Also, is it possible that, because they haven't had the support they wanted from the Kurds, this is a slap in their face as well?
That's also just leaving the Kurds and abandon them. So they are not obliged. Many complicated motivations and so on.
Okay, it's not so much a victory of Ahmed Sharaf, but yeah, just America's own interest.
Could be a victory for him. We don't know. Also, all of these speculation. But what I face, it's they left Syria now, and as far as I see, they don't have any forces there or any base. Because
we have to see how it goes.
The base is there continuously under hammering of Daesh and other entities. Or seriously under continuous attack of these things. So.
Daesh are irrelevant now anyway.
They don't have enough. They don't have enough depth and capabilities to survive nicely. While in Iraq, they have major bases where they can barricade themselves. And now they have this base in Jordan, which they developed to a great level.
Has Iran should target them then? The Jordan one. Iran should target the Jordan one next then.
Which one?
Jordan American base then. That should be on the target list.
Oh, this is already being targeted, already demolished partly, and then they're trying to adjust it and improving it and so on. Yeah.
Okay. And also, somebody says Syria's joined the coalition against Daesh. Is Daesh still there?
It's there, and today and tomorrow they will be there. Yeah. It's not clear what's happening with them, where they are, where they have presence, what if they have changed, if they improved their ideological. It seems to be they are doing certain acts at the moment, which looks as they have some kind of revision of their points of view and so on.
Okay.
Putting a shot on the spot, but we have to watch and see exactly what happens.
I mean, are they, because their historical treachery and stabbing in the back, aren't they more in line with other foreign interests like America and Israelis?
Yeah, because they were remotely controlled by the intelligence, especially the Syrian intelligence. We discussed that so many times.
So you think that
going back to that does not bring us anywhere.
But do you think they've moved away from that?
We don't know. We'll see what happens, what they say and what they act.
I suppose in answer to this question, we need to see over a more extended timeline.
Yeah. Okay, so I think they're becoming more or less irrelevant, and also Shara may become irrelevant, either go to the main line or become irrelevant.
You do see that
the whole situation after the war with Iran now and the change for the change inside Iran is changed radically. Even Erdogan may become irrelevant unless he changes radically. Seems to be completely Machiavellian and have some red lines and ideological points, which he doesn't seem to be able to get to it.
Okay, let's stop the stream now.